Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on boxing. So, we just saw one of the best light heavyweight championship fights in history. It totally delivered. Hopefully, we get a rematch sooner than later. Going into this fight, this was a fight where everybody was riding the fence. You saw people making videos, backtracking, contradicting themselves, changing their opinions. Even I, who made multiple videos, wasn't sure who I was going to pick the final day. This was a clash between two great light heavyweight fighters. Two different styles. One, a great boxer. And we saw that today. Bivol looked great, right? If you want to talk about who looked better in this fight, Bivol looked better, right? That's 100% factual. Bivol looked better. He looked like the fight went more the way he was hoping the fight would go. But fights are scored by the round. You can only win based on how many rounds you win. So even though overall you have a feeling that you boxed great, you looked fantastic, you did exactly what you wanted to do, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to scrape off the win, because there's more to this. There's a 10-point must system. You scored by every single round you win. Momentum is important. Actual rounds won is the most important. But it's funny because I see a lot of people on social media, and a lot of people are talking about how this was a robbery. You know, this is what people always say when things don't go their way. And I notice for the most part, the people saying it was a robbery are people that feel Bivol won. The people that support Bivol aren't necessarily Beterbiev fans, but scored it for Beterbiev. None of them are acting nearly as radical in their opinions and trying to find ways to justify the way they saw the fight. I had the fight a draw. I thought Manich's card was accurate. But what this comes down to is what many great close fights come down to: the championship rounds. And even though that may seem ridiculous, but it's true, right? In this fight, going into the championship rounds, Beterbiev's team told him he needed a knockout to win. And it's not that he needed a knockout to win, but he needed to fucking step up his pace and win those final 3 rounds to be in the fight with a chance. Even if he got a knockdown, I think that would have been solidified him as the winner. The way it ended, I felt it was a draw, clearly a draw. Obviously, there's close rounds, but I felt the rounds were pretty obvious based on the flow and the momentum during that round. I saw Mike Montero's looking at the punch count and using that to determine. But you can't specifically look at punch count to determine. Because first of all, punch count, how accurate is it, right? Like, we see it all the time, and we watch a fight and we see the momentum of a fight and who we thought won, and then we go back and look at the punch count and think, what the fuck, man? That can't be true. That isn't even close to what I saw. And in this case, what we saw in the punch count is that basically the fight was a draw, right? Like, literally, that's what the punch count shows us. That Beterbiev was the more active fighter, throwing more punches, which is exactly what we felt, but that Bivol was landing at a higher percentage connect rate, right? But overall, they landed pretty much the exact same amount of punches. And when you calculate that over 12 rounds, it should be no surprise that basically most people feel, or a lot of people feel, it was a draw. Young Max, who has his YouTube channel, he predicted a draw, and he was totally on point in that, and great prediction for him, because even though I knew this was a competitive fight, a great fight with two great fighters, I never felt it would be a draw. I never felt that would be the end to it. I predicted Beterbiev by late stoppage. I think I said 10 or 11th round. And in those championship rounds, it did look like at times that Beterbiev, if he was able to put a little more pressure on, potentially could have at least dropped Bivol. And if you drop him, potentially we don't know how he would have handled that mentally. He may have crumbled, and he might have been able to get the stoppage. So I don't think I was off by a lot. I knew Bivol was going to be dangerous. I know he's a great fighter. I knew his movement and his jab and his combination punching would give Beterbiev a lot of problems, and that's exactly how it worked out. Um, if Beterbiev would have lost and it would have been a close decision to Bivol, I wouldn't have been screaming robbery. I wouldn't have been upset because I could totally understand that this was a very close fight. A few swing rounds here or there could totally swing things. I think it's kind of disingenuous when you listen to people that were at the fight acting as if everybody at the fight felt that Bivol won the fight, whereas I looked at a lot of comments and post-fight responses to the fight from people that were there, and a lot of people felt Beterbiev won the fight. And these are people that are, you know, media pundits who are always in boxing, always around, were at the fight, and they still felt, being there, that Beterbiev won the fight. And I always think that's a little different, watching a fight on TV and watching the fight actually there. Obviously, you can get caught up with the momentum when you're there, the feeling of the crowd, and you could see that. When Beterbiev was pushing, the crowd really was responding to it, really feeling like potentially the end was near. And of course, this is potentially going to impact the judges as well. How can it not? I mean, you know, there's always, how should we say, a bit of bias when watching and scoring and paying attention to a fight. Usually when I do my lives, what I do is, obviously I have no sound on because I'm interacting with people that jump on my channel. And in doing that, I don't really hear the noise. I don't hear the punches. I don't hear the crowd. I don't hear the commentating and the narratives that they're pushing. So basically all I get is really what I see with my eyes, right? In today's fight, obviously because it was very early in the UK, I had to wake up at 5:30 in Taiwan to watch it, which, you know, made Lily a little uncomfortable. Now she's looking at me like, are we gonna be here all day? But I did listen to the commentating, and I did, you know, see what the network was showing as replays. They were showing all Bivol highlights, right? So people that then come out and say Bivol won and was robbed, you're literally watching highlights, short clips that the media, DAZN, ESPN, are clipping out of a 3-minute round and showing you these highlights. And literally 90% of the action they showed you was pro Bivol. 90%, easily, right? They weren't really showing anything really that positive that Beterbiev was doing. And it's not that Beterbiev wasn't doing anything positive. If you watched the round, you saw that he landed punches and was putting pressure on. But then in the replays, they're mostly highlighting Bivol. So I can understand why people feel Bivol won the fight, why he was robbed, because when you listen to the commentating and the way they were talking, they also felt like, oh, in round 5 they were acting as if Beterbiev was already tired and potentially was telling his corner, you know, there was a problem. At least that's how the people that were discussing the fight that I was watching, the UK crowd, that's what they were saying. So already they're putting the seed of doubt in Beterbiev's performance, right? So you can understand how people would take that, the highlights they see, and all of that, and then just assume that Bivol won the fight and won clearly. Also, it depends on style. I saw a lot of people, guys like Sergio Mora, Shakur Stevenson, and fighters that are slick fighters. Not hard punchers, but very slick boxers. And of course, they all were pro Bivol. They thought Bivol won the fight because literally Bivol does what they do. And they can appreciate that. And really, that's what they sort of give high marks to, because, you know, it's a reflection on them. So again, you know, personal bias coming in to impact the way people score a fight. I looked at Devin Haney, on the other hand, who you think would sort of be more in that corner, because, you know, he's more of a slick fighter, not much of a power puncher. Yet he said it was a very close fight, could go either way, right? Which I felt, you know, was a very fair assessment of the fight, because I think it could have went either way. I think obviously a draw would have been the perfect sort of situation, because That's what I thought the fight was, a draw. But to be fair, a draw would have been disappointing, right? Nobody would have been happy with a draw. With a fight like this, there's always going to be half the population that's going to be disappointed, regardless of who wins. With a draw, 100% of the population ends up being disappointed because there's no winner, and then you have to wait like potentially 6 months to see a rematch if you get a rematch, which I'm pretty sure we will. It was way too high level, way too good of a fight not to get a rematch. And I definitely think it'd be very interesting to see how both fighters would sort of adjust going into a rematch. Uh, you know, Once again, when we get down to this fight, people felt that Bivol was dominating the fight, and I felt that too. Going into the last 3 rounds, I had it 6-3. That's pretty dominant. You have Bivol up 6-3 going into the championship rounds, right? That's a great performance from Bivol. But the same way I broke this down and explained why I felt Lomachenko sort of dropped the ball in the Devin Haney and the Teofimo Lopez fights is the same reason I felt Bivol dropped the ball in this fight. He took his foot off the gas. He thought he'd coast to the championship, kind of like De La Hoya did when he fought Trinidad. I mean, most people still feel De La Hoya beat Trinidad in that fight. But what they do all say is that De La Hoya did take his foot off the gas and open up that opportunity for Trinidad to steal the fight. And that's exactly what happened. And once again, this is kind of how this fight unfolded, right? Beterbiev went in, won the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and solidified himself as the undisputed 175-pound champion. It's a shame that some people just want to get on here and create controversy. I heard people saying, this is why I hate boxing. I don't want to watch this sport. Yet, you just watched one of the best fights of 2024, super high skill level, between two historically great fighters, two pound-for-pound guys. Yet the only thing you're taking away from this is your sour fucking grapes, because it didn't go the way you wanted it to, right? It's all this new mentality. If it doesn't go the way I want, I'm going to throw my toys out of the crib, right? And that's what we see a lot of this. People that are just being emotional and overreacting. If Bivol won, I would have thought, yes, he deserved to win. I mean, even though I had it a draw, I do think his performance today was better, right? But yet, when it comes down to it, you can only win based on how many rounds you won. And that's why this fight, to me, was a draw. I didn't see Beterbiev winning the fight. I didn't think he won 8 rounds. I don't think he won 7 rounds. But at the same time, that's the way it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes in a fight this close, this competitive, because sometimes momentum is everything. Judges are there. They hear the crowds. They hear the punches. Like, literally, they're there. They're hearing the punches land. And obviously, you can't be surprised that, this impacts them and, leaves something in their mind when they're scoring the card. But, obviously, we're going to be hearing this for the next week. It's a bit of a shame. Remember, Monday and Tuesday, we have 2 double-head card from Japan, 2 great cards full of world title fights. Already today, we had a huge upset. South African 108-pound world champion lost to Yabuki, the same Yabuki that gave Ken Shiro, who's going to be fighting this Monday, Tuesday as well, to become a 2-weight world champion, gave Ken Shiro his first loss as a champion, stopping him in the first fight. Ken Shiro came back and convincingly beat him in the rematch after he made adjustments. In this fight, Yabuki had another opportunity to win a world title, went in there and beat the very good South African fighter, making a statement, now becoming a 2-time 108-pound world champion. So it definitely shows you that Japan is real, and they got some real serious fighters. Even when we're talking about not the elite guys, but the guys that are just, on the tier underneath of that, like a Yabuki, who obviously is no Kenshiro, but still found a way to become a two-time 108-pound champion. So yeah, I'm super excited about those two fight cards. Make sure you jump in. I'm going to try to go live on Monday and Tuesday for both of those cards, since it's going to be after school for me, so it's perfect timing. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you think won today and why? And if you can remember, which may be a stretch, what rounds do you think that fighter won that give them the edge on the scorecards? Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time. Peace out. Great night of fighting.